Amazing.
Peter Cottontail hopping down the bunny trail, hippity hoppity, Easter's on its way. And welcome everyone to episode 163 of the most must-see, award-winning show to ever hit the Bedford TV airwaves, or any airwaves for that matter, north, south, east, west, backwards, frontward, sideways, diagonally, any which way you look at it. The Wrestling Connection, and I am your host, your connection to the wrestling world, the fedorable felon himself, the perfect Ken, Mr. Ken Hill, at your service today. Yeah, you liked that one, didn't you? All right.
It's a good pun. I like it. Good pun. Good pun.
Well, and the Broken Bro Ken. But yeah, okay. Anyway,
That too.
Ken Hill here, alongside me, back from his whirlwind trip in Orlando, Florida, Mr. Nick Giglio.
Hello, Ken.
Hi, how you doing? Sadly, Greg and Julie could not be in today. They are off preparing for the Easter weekend festivities with their family and loved ones. Kudos to them. Happy Easter to them. Hope they have a great weekend. But just because we can't have half the WK crew here doesn't mean we can't have twice the fun. All right. Speaking of fun, we had the big superstar shakeup this past week, Nick. We got a lot of superstars swapping between Raw and SmackDown. There's a lot to go over here. So you got the photo right there, the superstar shakeup.
I'm looking for it. There it is.
There it is. Oh, yep. See, literally anyone is up for grabs. Was up for grabs here. Champions, announcers. Heck, we didn't even know. They could have swapped general managers for all we know. But as it was, it proved some interesting bits and pieces right here. We'll start out on the Raw side. Who came over from SmackDown to Raw? All right, we start out with surprisingly the Intercontinental Champion Dean Ambrose, along with Miz and Maurice in their John Cena and Nikki Bella getup, classic, duping us into believing that John Cena and Nikki themselves were coming over to Raw, but instead we got Miz and Maurice, which isn't so bad. But anyway, the three kicked off Raw. Raw is only they could. So it's interesting enough, you got the Intercontinental Champion over here when he was kind of in the midst of a feud with Baron Corbin. But with Baron Corbin seemingly having the one-up on Ambrose, who had thought a championship match was coming his way. But, well, with WWE, you never know with Vince McMahon, all right? It's his whim. It's his whimsy. He does what he wants. So it's no surprise that they would swap champions. I'll touch on that a little bit later. So we move on down the line where we had Apollo Crews drafted over to Raw. Actually, the first official announced SmackDown member coming over to the Raw roster.
That's the Apollo Crews picture I have, so clearly that's not right.
Go figure. Yep, just as much a presence on here as he was on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, there you go. See, I'm on a roll today. So that, and we had Kalisto, former United States champion, coming over to Raw, which I actually think may not be as much a shot in the arm for Raw as it is for Kalisto. Kalisto was basically he was adrift on SmackDown. He wasn't doing much of anything. Now he's on Raw, where the Cruiserweight division is. So Kalisto can be another body for the cruiserweight division, and it can't hurt to have someone with his high-flying acumen on the cruiserweight roster and the Raw roster as well. All right, so we keep on moving down. We actually come to the women's division where we had former two-time SmackDown Women's Champion Alexa Bliss making her appearance, making herself known to the rest of the Raw Women's roster, and intending on coming out on top on the Raw roster like she did on SmackDown. But however, she did not come alone. Along came her former comrade in arms, Miss Mickie James. There you go. So the two making their presence known. However, the woman who really put herself in the spotlight right here was Nia Jax. Not only more or less dominating Charlotte in what would be her last match, wink wink, on Raw, but more or less laying out the entire Raw Women's division, including its two newest members, but not Travis. Who could hurt someone with big eyes like that? But the point being, Nia Jax firmly establishing herself as the new de facto heel, the top heel on Raw. How effective she is remains to be seen. All right, so now I believe we keep on going. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. Oh yes, we actually had the first ever SmackDown the inaugural tag team champions from SmackDown, Heath Slater and Rhino come over to Raw. Now these two have been kind of on the outs for a while. We thought that initially they were going to break up after these two lost tag team titles and the rematch to the Wyatts. But it seems like they've managed to stick together for the most part, and they're coming over to Raw now. Should be interesting to see this. And now, I mean, just a small note, we pointed this out last week. Now that you've got Jinder on SmackDown, Heath on Raw, and McIntyre on NXT, it's only a matter of time until the 3MB reunion. We all know it's going to happen. It's an eventuality. We all know it's going down. It can't be helped. All right. So the other thing I wanted to note from coming out of the Raw side of this is now you have Rollins, Reigns, and Ambrose. Now they're all back on the same brand, which brings up the question: is a Shield reunion in the works? It certainly seems so. In fact, you have all three guys on Raw. Should be very interesting to see where that goes. I mean, honestly, if they brought AJ Styles over to Raw, which they didn't, surprisingly, could have looked forward to having the Club versus the Shield on Raw. So I mean, that could have been a tremendous six-man tag team match. And you know, WWE for some reason manages to six-man tag seems to be their bread and butter for the last half decade. So who knows? It might happen somewhere down the line, but we'll have to see. I believe I covered everyone a note on the Raw side. In case, unless there's anyone I missed. All right, so let's move on over to the SmackDown. Well, we did have one debut. Well, he made much of a presence as Apollo Crews did. That being former NXT superstar, the Drifter Elias Sampson, just wandering about the audience and coming out on stage during the big main event tag team match. So I mean, again, don't get me wrong. I mean, his character is interesting, but I mean, it's just like the NXT crowd wasn't too receptive, and they're usually a good litmus test for how receptive a bigger crowd will be to a certain superstar. The fact that they didn't really like Sampson to begin with, I don't have much high hopes for him not being more than just a body on the Raw roster. Same with Kurt Hawkins, who I nearly forgot about. Kurt Hawkins, who was introduced as only a man of his magnitude could be introduced. Something I think Greg would have liked. The Big Show. Well, I need to get to Kurt. Curtis Hawkins was welcomed as only I think Greg Dolan would appreciate a Big Show knockout punch. So, I mean, this goes out to Kurt Hawkins. Welcome to the Raw roster, and welcome to your top spot on main event.
Woo!
Yay! Okay, so now moving over to the SmackDown side, we actually started out with the current United States champion, the proper prim and trimmed Kevin Owens, coming out in all his finery. There you go. Oh, look, he's looking sharp. If I do say so myself. But all right, so Owens. So we had Owens, and you know what? Let's face facts. Where there's Owens, there's Sami Zayn. Yep, Owens made his debut on SmackDown. So did Sami Zayn. Even though Kurt Angle promised him the moon that he was not going to get drafted from Raw to SmackDown. So sorry, Sammy. So sorry, Sammy, baby. But yep, he got bumped over to SmackDown as well. So of course, the fight that goes on forever, truly does go on forever with Owens and Zayn. All right. So also showing up on SmackDown was, of course, 5-time women's champion Charlotte Flair. A move that didn't really surprise anyone. Charlotte had done all she could on Raw, made the transition over to SmackDown now, and now she's got a whole fresh crop of fellow female wrestlers to contend with. Also coming on there, someone who actually hadn't been seen in a while, and not surprisingly so, given the circumstances surrounding her father's unfortunate passing, was one Tamina Snuka. Now, Tamina should be a very effective woman on the roster. She should be able to. She's a very physical, aggressive superstar from what we've seen. However, just how much of a presence she's going to have remains to be seen, because she's never been all that effective before. Do you got the picture of Tamina?
Who?
Tamina Snuka.
Tamina Snuka. Yes, I do. Sorry, it's like 4 pages I gotta go through.
Okay, there we go. So there's that as well. So I mean, so yeah, again, so 2 women for Raw, 2 women for SmackDown. Not much of a shock there. What I was surprised is the way they built it up, teased the idea that like they were going to debut Charlotte first, only to debut Tamina. You know, talking about the whole second generation thing, a famous father. Yeah, considering the recent circumstances with Superfly, I'm not so sure calling her father famous would be an appropriate term at the given time. More infamous than famous, unfortunately. If you remember the recent court case concerning Jimmy Snuka, but that's neither here nor there, and I'm not going to drag the show down because of that. All right, so moving on from there. All right, we had an interesting move into the SmackDown Tag Team division. 2 moves. First was the Shining Stars, surprisingly, who, I mean, we all figured that was going to be the Club making it move over from Raw to SmackDown, but lo and behold, here are Epico and Primo laying out the American Alpha after their unsuccessful rematch against the Usos. So now at least you got another team. You got another team for American Alpha to contend with. That's interesting enough. But again, it's the Shining Stars. They were more or less one of the jobber teams on Raw. So really, how effective are they going to be on SmackDown versus a team like American Alpha that could even pick a team like the Wyatts apart? Again, be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, maybe they'll be a little more motivated. Maybe now because now they're on a more like athletically based program like SmackDown, that maybe they can expand a little more on their in-ring repertoire. Again, remains to be seen. All right, so the other interesting move, one that doesn't surprise really anyone, but a big move nonetheless, is New Day. Yep, all three members of the New Day making the move over to SmackDown. I mean, what more can you say? They had their big record-breaking tag team title run on Raw. Once that ran its course, they more or less kind of just drifted around, hosted WrestleMania in all their Final Fantasy finery. But of course, all good things on Raw have to come to an end and come over to SmackDown. So there you go. New Day and the Shining Stars on SmackDown, which should hopefully help bolster the tag team ranks, because we all know that SmackDown tag team roster needs a big-time shakeup. Now, I couldn't get a photo of this, but interestingly enough, we also had a minor draft in the singles division, Sin Cara, which kind of perturbs me, because I mean, really, you had a chance to put Sin Cara and Kalisto back together, like you could have them as a semi-regular tag team, the Lucha Dragons, but it seems like WWE is kind of intent on keeping them apart for some godforsaken reason. I guess just so they can have like a warm body in Sin Cara for, like, you know, the main event superstars to toss around. So I guess there's that. All right. So so Nick, I mean, just based on what we've looked through so far, like, which brand do you feel like kind of got the better of the superstar shakeup here?
The better of the two.
I mean, just based on what you've seen so far.
I would say SmackDown got better.
Why do you think? Why do you think so?
Well, hold on. Let me bring up that picture. Where are you? There we go. Superstar Shakeup. Well, they got the New Day. There's a tag team, a really long reigning, like, tag team champion. Oh, let's get me in there. There we go.
And I also forgot, SmackDown also got Jinder Mahal. I mean, and for some reason, WWE is actually thinking about, like, kind of getting behind him for at least a push through the mid card ranks. Which I don't think it's undeserved. I mean, he certainly improved himself in the ring. He certainly improved himself physically. I mean, as we've seen in the last.
But he's lost twice now.
But yeah, he's lost twice.
To a beer in the face.
And he lost to Mojo on SmackDown in his debut. So that kind of begs the question as well. So I mean, really, what kind of push is Jinder really in for?
Is this a SmackDown guy?
Yeah, Mojo Rawley, winner of the
Mahal.
Mahal, yeah. Well, no, he was on Raw, and now he's on SmackDown.
Now he's on SmackDown.
Yeah, that's why I put him up there, because this was his SmackDown debut.
SmackDown needs more people.
I'd say both of them need more people. I mean, this just shows kind of lack of depth the WWE roster in general has. The fact that they have they have very shallow numbers in all levels. The women's, the men's, the tag team division.
So, so SmackDown's on Tuesday, right?
SmackDown's on Tuesdays.
Raw's on Monday.
Raw is on Mondays. I mean, this kind of goes back. I mean, this is, I think, the problem that touches on, like, when people call Vince McMahon a so-called creative genius, because I mean, back in the day, during when Vince was younger, you had so many more feeder divisions. You had so many, like, you had NWA, you had AWA, you had Crockett Promotions. You had so many different southern, like Eastern, Western, and Southern promotions that could help eventually cultivate and transition talent over to WWE. But the problem is WWE and Vince more or less scooped up all this talent and forced these promotions to shut down and kind of just pull the rug out from under them. And even today, Vince has admitted that it wasn't a smart move in hindsight, because now it's up to WWE to kind of find and cultivate all this different talent on their own, whereas there were thousands of potential superstars in all these different promotions. WWE at the most only has like 100 active, like, on their total roster. WWE, like Raw, SmackDown, the Cruiserweight, and NXT, and even on the new UK brand. So kind of says something to the fact that, I mean, Vince acknowledged the fact that maybe Okay, he shouldn't have been as, competitive and underhanded as he was back in the day.
Ah.
All
So,
right.
Julie did mention something about, like, someone getting absolutely destroyed somewhere and, like, put through an ambulance or something.
Oh no. I mean, God, I wish I'd gotten the photo of that. I mean, because we seem to be, has seen to be believed.
No, Julie did mention that. She wanted
I
me to
did
bring
mention that. You had Roman Reigns in a sit-down interview with Michael Cole. Partway through the interview, Braun Strowman just storms in, just starts beating the bejesus out of Reigns, kind of tossing him head over heels through a nearby table, bashing him against the wall, power slamming him onto steel crates, taking another steel crate on wheels and just driving it straight into his head and chest, causing like several internal injuries. And then as Reigns was being strapped onto the gurney, onto the stretcher, here comes Strowman again, barrels everyone out of the way, and just pushes him off of a loading dock ramp down to the concrete ground below. And then as Reigns was being loaded into the ambulance, here comes Strowman again, gets in a few more licks on Reigns, goes to lift the ambulance. Now, this is where I wish I had the photo, because I remembered on the photo, but the thing about this is that, I mean, he deadlifts the ambulance. Like, we're talking, he just gets right under it, lifts it, and just eventually manages to tip it over on its side. Now, for anyone obviously who's seen an ambulance, they're very top heavy. They're so top heavy, they're and weighed down. They're able to like take tight turns without fear of tipping over. That's the whole point. You want to keep the person inside safe. That's the whole point of having these ambulances weighed down. They weigh anywhere between 10 to 14,000 pounds. And okay, Strowman's a strong guy. No, let's not deny that. Let's call it straight and say he's a very strong guy. He was a former power lifter. But analysts and physicists have all talked about this since this segment, that for someone even as strong as Strowman to lift a near 14,000. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was a simple Google search, Ken.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you. For Strowman, even someone that's like 370, 380 pounds, and someone as thick and muscled as Strowman is, to lift an ambulance is literally physically impossible. It literally can't be done by one person alone. A regular automobile, possibly, because they're not nearly as top heavy, but something along the lines, like I said, of an RV or an ambulance, it's just not possible for one person.
But how did he do it?
Well, okay. So I mean, you can clearly see down. Like, okay, if you remove me for a second, all right, you can clearly see down in the lower right corner. You can clearly see a jack next to one of the front tires, which shows that how he got the boost to begin with. And there was also another shot where you see Reigns getting out of the ambulance. So he wasn't in the ambulance when it happened. And I don't even know why they bothered having Reigns get out of the ambulance, because, okay, the worst that would have happened to Reigns, considering how enclosed the inside of the back rear of an ambulance is, he would have just gone jostled a little bit. It's not like he would have gone tumbling end over end. He would have just gone jostled a little. He would have just probably just turned on his side. Maybe not even so. So clearly Strowman had some assistances, because we've seen instances where, where Big Show once turned a Jeep onto its side. You could clearly see that there was if you had looked closer, you would have clearly seen that there was a jack under there to help Big Show lift the Jeep. Not that it wasn't an impressive sight. Same with this. And I mean, I hate to be the literal magic killer here, but I mean that's what it was. I mean, it was an amazing segment. I mean, it went a long way into helping reestablish Strowman as the monster on Raw after his subpar performance at the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. And we're most likely looking at either a stretcher or an ambulance match between these two come WWE Payback. Now, the other interesting news, like I said, concerning WWE Payback is the United States Championship. Now, there is the rematch between Owens and the former champion, his former best friend, Chris Jericho. Now, what the interesting stipulation about this match is that whoever wins the United States Championship will come over to Friday Night SmackDown, whereas the loser will remain on Monday Night Raw. So basically, if Jericho wins, he's on SmackDown. If Owens wins, he's on SmackDown. Now, I mean, I don't want to make an early. I want to make an early prediction here, considering that Jericho is slated to be taking some time off for his band Fozzy. I'm not going to be at all surprised if Owens comes out on top in this one. Now, the other interesting thing here is that the fact that there's a WWE Championship match, the House of Horrors, which we still don't know what it is, between Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt for the WWE Championship, the SmackDown WWE Championship. Now, we don't know if that has the same stipulation, considering that Bray Wyatt was actually drafted. I can't believe I forgot that. Bray Wyatt was drafted over to Monday Night Raw. Can't believe I forgot to touch on that. Bray Wyatt was drafted over to Raw. And so that begs the question, all right, will it have the same stipulation as the United States Championship match? If Bray Wyatt wins, does he bring the WWE Championship to Raw, or does he stay on SmackDown? If Orton wins, does he bring the WWE Championship over to Raw, or does he keep it on SmackDown, or if he loses, does he go over to Raw? Again, there are still quite a few questions coming out of the Superstar Shakeup that we won't really know until hopefully next week. Hopefully. All right, so that's all for the Superstar Shakeup. But before we sign off, this is a very distressing piece of business that it's really got to me on a personal level. There's been a lot going on concerning JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield, and his history of bullying and hazing tactics behind the scenes. I mean, we know a lot of JBL's history, more or less. I mean, soaping Edge. I won't go into details about that. Please don't ask. Soaping Edge, kicking Miz out of the locker room for leaving chicken crumbs in a referee's bag, among other things. And most recently, he has taken to bullying Joey Styles, former ECW announcer and WWE employee, bullying him on a trip over to Iraq for tribute to the troops, only to get punched out by Joey when he was antagonizing him while JBL was drunk. So, go Joey. But this most recent one is very distressing because Mauro Ranallo, as you may or may not know, has taken an indefinite leave of absence from World Wrestling Entertainment, in part due to, and this is something I am familiar with, due to his bipolar disorder. Now, this, kudos to Mauro for being able to work through this. I mean, you've seen at times where Mauro can be very hyper and excited about a match, and other times during a show he'll seem much more reserved and laid back. So clearly, he's been dealing with it even throughout a show, and it seemed like that JBL through Twitter has been making disparaging comments about Mauro and his disorder, part of which led to Mauro deciding to step away from WWE. I mean, I don't. And now you have the fans. You even have people within WWE. You have former WWE employees, including former WWE announcer Justin Roberts, who came out of the woodwork and pointed out many of JBL's bullying habits behind the scenes, and how more or less not only were JBL's bullying things encouraged, they were encouraged by, of all people, Vince McMahon. Basically just to weed out the prima donnas, the weaklings, the people who couldn't hack it backstage in World Wrestling Entertainment, which is very disconcerting and extremely hypocritical considering WWE's stance, anti-bullying stance. You know, the whole be a star notion. I mean, this all harkens back to the CM Punk's original pipe bomb, where, I mean, we're talking about the whole anti-bullying campaign where he called out Vince as being just about the biggest bully there is, and this is more proof of it. The fact that he encouraged someone like JBL to go ahead and bully people, antagonize them to see if they can hack it. And I mean, do you blame? I mean, Nick, do you blame people for basically just wanting to string out JBL here for wanting to see him get let go?
I can see that. Ooh, sorry. Hold on, keep going. I gotta adjust this audio.
I mean, even if it's simply through Twitter, the fact that he went out of his way to antagonize Mauro, the fact that he made light of his bipolar, the fact that he said a number of disparaging remarks to Mauro that caused Mauro to step away from WWE for, like I said, an indefinite amount of time. We don't know if he's simply just going to sit out the rest of his contract or if he will come back at some point.
But he is taking a leave of absence.
He is. So I mean, initially they said, "Oh, okay, he can't be here. He can't be here." But now they're making no mention of him. So clearly WWE's trying to move away from this, which I don't think is the right move right here. The fact is, this is something that's not going to go away. The fact that you have someone who's clearly going against the whole anti-bullying stance that they propose with Be a Star. The whole campaign that they've been doing for years now. And it's come out that one of their top individuals in JBL is antagonizing other employees, and Vince McMahon, the head of it all, is actively encouraging it.
It's not right.
It's not right. And I mean, Vince may not respond to the fans and the fact that there are petitions out there for JBL to be fired, but if sponsors decide to pull out because Vince and WWE are being hypocrites when it comes to anti-bullying, JBL is going to be gone like that.
Oh, yeah.
No, big time. Or at the very least, he'll be let go for like 6 to 9 months until the heat dies down.
I have a feeling it's going to be the second one.
I wouldn't be surprised either. But I mean, this is very discouraging. I mean, as you know, I used to be in a relationship with Angela, who herself was bipolar. I've had coworkers who were bipolar, who I mean, even when they've taken the proper means to keep it under wraps, like they face that pressure every single day. And you had to have someone with Mauro who had Vince McMahon screaming in his ear about his announcing, and not to mention traveling all around the world. I mean, it takes its toll on a guy. So I mean, kudos to Mauro. Kudos to Mauro for being able to persevere as long as he did. So
yeah.
I mean, I wish Mauro nothing but the best. I would love to see him come back to WWE someday. I thought he was great. He was enthusiastic. I thought he brought a lot of energy to the Smackdown announce team. I'd like to see the announce team shorten up a little bit. We don't need 3-4 bodies on the announce table. That's all I can say. I mean, speaking of which, though, I mean, on that little note, you had David Otunga brought over to Raw, which hopefully he can get some more seasoning, because Otunga, as an announcer, he's just bad. He's just bad all around. And then you had Byron Saxton, who actually brought that same sort of energy that Mauro did, and it seemed like that it was that SmackDown went along more smoothly in terms of its announcing. So I mean, hopefully we'll see if the change up the announcers has any effect on the quality. All right. In the meantime, though, that's all for episode 163 of the Wrestling Connection. I believe next week's my birthday.
Sweet.
Well, next Saturday anyway. But it'll be a big episode. I think I'm not sure. I think next week is either Payback or it's the yeah. I think next week is the Payback pay per preview. I believe. Don't quote me on that. I'll double check it and I'll update everyone. Let everyone on Facebook. Let everyone know when the preview is. I do believe it's next week. I'm 80% sure. All right. So, but anyway, we got that and my birthday coming up next week. Just want to wish everyone a happy Easter. Happy Easter to Nick, to Greg, Julie, to Brian, to everyone at Bedford TV. Have a happy holiday and good luck in finding those eggs. All right. So in the meantime, remember, be connected, get connected, stay connected. Yeah, have a good weekend, everyone, and happy Easter.
I've heard it too many times to ignore it.
It's some things that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the Wrestling Connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee da da doo, da da.